Cashflow Diary podcast, episode 486.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you are here today because what it comes down to is we are out there. You're coming up with great ideas. You're putting perfect systems behind it. You are doing your best to build your cash flow. Yet, even though you're doing the best you can, running your standard operating procedures, making sure your team is doing what they said they were going to do when they said they were going to do it, you still may have some questions, specifically questions about money. Like now that it's here or now that it's coming or now that I've gotten myself into maybe a particular situation, what do I do? And you feel like you might have a few questions. Well, interestingly, today I have with me America's Money's Answers Man. You may know him as John Goodman. He's been on many different media outlets from podcasts to TV. He's got 13 best-selling books on personal finance. And I guess that means we could ask him any question about money and we're going to get a great answer. And what's really cool about that is that maybe we should try to stump him together. No, I'm just kidding. But at the end of the day, here's what it comes down to. When someone has been doing what he is doing for the decades that he's been doing it, you and I have a chance to shortcut some of the challenges that you may be experiencing. And what's cool is we'll get to do that together. So hopefully you are ready to learn, ready to listen, and ready to love Jordan Goodman. Jordan, how you doing?
Great to be with you, Jay.
I'm glad that you are here. So, this being the first time that you're here, though, I have to ask you the same question that I didn't ask everybody. You ready?
Sure.
All right. I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes. You know, Batman, Robin, Wonder Woman, etc. And I tend to think that entrepreneurs and superheroes have a ton of things in common. For example, as an entrepreneur, occasionally I can imagine myself flying around town, you know, using our products and services, saving our customers from themselves with the, and maybe I am wearing a cape and tight, but
I think you are.
But also like a superhero, an entrepreneur, they have a beginning. So if you think about Spider-Man, for example, there was a time where he was just a kid going to school, doing his thing, taking some photos, nothing really remarkable about that. Then one day he gets bit by a spider, discovers I have a special ability, and he gets to choose. Does he use it for good or does he use it for evil?
Right.
So my question to you is as follows. Before, being on the Fox News Network, CNN, CNBC, before your books, Master Your Debt, Fast Profits in Hard Times, and everything else, before, the Money Answers show, even before everything that we know you for today, what we want to know is, who is Jordan Goodman?
Well, I've always had a passion to help people make good financial decisions from early on. And I've always been a kind of a combination entrepreneur / journalist, I guess you might say. I mean, if you really want to go all the way back, started at age 12, actually. My family had a place in Hyannis on Cape Cod. Mm-hmm. And I used to write for the newspaper, the Cape Cod Times. I did the youth baseball column at age 12.
Interesting.
And I not only was writing with all the Babe Ruth leagues and all the different leagues around the Cape, but I would then sell the paper to the tourists going over on the ferries to Martha's Vineyard in Nantucket. I was hanging around the newsroom and I could see there was a ton of newspapers left over And I said to the pressman, "What do you?" He said, "We just throw them out." I said, "Do you mind if I take it?" He said, "Great. It's much less work for us." So that was my supply. My demand was that people on the cruise ships going over, they sit there for 5 minutes, say, "This is nice," and then like, what am I supposed to do? And so I'd go around and sell the papers to them. This is like in the 60s for like 25 cents a piece. By the time the ship left, whatever, 75% of the people had papers, and I'd just go back and get more. So I was putting supply and demand together, helping them. I made a little money. And it was kind of, while I was a journalist, I saw the opportunity. So I've always kind of done that. I've been a journalist, written all these books, do this radio, TV, podcasts, all the things you're talking about. But I try to help people. I see what demands they have, what financial needs they've got, and I try to come up with the best solution for that need. So it's, I guess you could say, going all the way back, it's a similar theme.
That's funny. I like it though, because you were taking what would have been waste, someone else's trash became your treasure,
Exactly.
and you found a use for it. So that's amazing. Now, is there anything particular that drew you to the art of just writing? I mean, that's a skill set in and of itself that not every one of us have.
Yeah, well, it's true. I mean, I went through Amherst College. I went to London School of Economics. I did Columbia School of Journalism, and I always liked to write. And after that, went to Money Magazine, where I was for 18 years, writing on all different aspects of personal finance. My first book was 1983. It was the Dictionary of Finance and Investment Terms. There hadn't been a dictionary done since like the early 1940s. And the publisher, Barron's, came to me and said, we should do a dictionary. So I did it. And that's now sold about 3.5 million copies. The 10th edition is just about to come out. And it served the need. Again, there's all these new terms going on all the time, new tax laws. And so it's a hell of a job to do a dictionary, I'll tell you that.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, how long dictionary, how do you know you got all the words, man?
Well, you keep adding to them. That's what I mean. I'm up to about 5,000 terms, 900 pages in the latest edition of it. And, I mean, you could do millions of terms, but I do the ones that people are most likely to use. And every edition, I come out with new terms that didn't exist 4 years earlier. I mean, for example, the most recent one, Brexit, did not exist 4 years before, but now it's very important. Or there's just all kinds of new terms coming along all the time. So I kind of judge what's the most important one to add in there and just define it. So I just love doing it. I mean, books aren't what they used to be. People don't read as much in books. They read much more online. So I do blogs and I do podcasts. And so you have to kind of evolve with the times. And writing is different from when I started back in the mid-'70s.
Yeah, and understood that. Yeah, definitely the distribution mechanisms, everything changes. I think that's the thing. So let me ask you this: in your history, was there ever a time? Well, actually, you mentioned that you worked with Money Magazine for a while.
Right. Right.
For a while, yes, exactly. So there's always this point. There's usually this point at which you feel this. This pull. It's like that moment that I like to call that superhero moment. It's the moment where the person, we realize I have something special here. I can go do this myself.
Exactly.
What was that like for you?
And that's exactly what happened. I mean, it was a great time. I loved them. They loved me. It was all wonderful. But after 18 years, I was getting more opportunities that I could take they were like a hindrance to me. So I needed them less than they needed me in a certain way. And went out and did things on my own that I couldn't have done remaining an employee at Money Magazine. I did, for example, a whole thing called the Money Answers Show. It was a TV show. It helped all kinds of people. I helped a company, which I still help today, help people get out of debt. Credit card debt is a huge thing. And I actually did an infomercial. I was in a half-hour infomercial, a place called Cambridge Credit Counseling. And that's helped, I think, 200,000 people get out of debt. Well, I couldn't do that if I was still at Money Magazine. So opportunities came along, and I continued to write, continued to do more books. But you're right, at a certain point, you have to decide what's best for you, and is it best to stay within your organization or to go out and do your own thing?
And, okay, and oftentimes during that process, it's it's not always smooth, either emotionally or, I mean, because there's an adjustment to the way you think, the way you live, the way everything. tell us a little bit more. What was that like?
Well, you have to have the new boat ready when you leave your existing boat. You don't just jump into.
I bet you there's a number of people who heard you say that and it's like, yeah, I should have did that right there.
Yeah. Well, with entrepreneurs, in many cases, they're in a corporate job and they've got some great idea, but it's, they just kind of quit their job and go do the entrepreneurial thing. It can work, but it makes it more difficult unless you're already kind of up and running. So, I mean, my website, moneyanswers.com, I'd started 1993, actually. I left Money Magazine in 1997. So it was up and running and already doing a lot of good things before I left. As I said, I had this Money Answers show. I had the relationship with Cambridge, helping them get out of people get out of credit card debt. And then more opportunities kind of came along. So you have to have the transition smooth, because you just don't want to kind of jump and hope it's going to work out. That's probably not a good recipe for success.
Totally understood. Now, was finance always the thing for you? Like, that's like, you like, I want to talk about money. I'm going to talk about money. That was it. I mean, before, was there ever anything else? Go ahead.
I mean, from early on, my mother was very much interested in investing, and I always learned about that in my teens. When I went to Columbia School of Journalism, they have kind of topic tracks, I guess you might say. And I did the economic financial track and just got fascinated by it. And to me, it's journalism that helps people, that has a real impact on their everyday lives, as opposed to political mudslinging or whatever. It's exciting to watch, but it doesn't affect me every day. But figuring out, where should I invest my money to earn a higher yield? How should I get out of debt? How can I pay my mortgage off faster? How can I get a better credit score? And these are things that affect people every day. And that's kind of how I'm positioned now. As the Money Answers man at moneyanswers.com, I give specific resources to help people implement to make a huge difference in their everyday lives. And that, to me, is the most satisfying thing out there.
Understood. So with that being the case, what would you say it has, what's been the most common? What is like the most common thing that you recently keep getting, or is indicating to you that Americans or people are having trouble with when it relates to their money?
Well, I would put two areas. The first one is to earn a decent yield on their money. Now, if you keep your money in a CD, savings account, money market fund, you're pretty much getting zero, right? So your money, it may be so-called safe, not really at all. Okay, so this is a big question I get all the time, is what do I do to earn a decent yield without having all the volatility of the stock and bond markets? So I've joined the board of a company called the Secured Real Estate Fund, which gives people an 8% yield over a 1-year time frame by lending to commercial real estate projects all over the country. That's helped a tremendous amount of people earn a yield they never thought possible without having to do anything wild and crazy in the stock or bond market. A website for that, by the way, is securedrealestatefunds.com. And they also help a lot of entrepreneurs get loans to do their commercial real estate projects, which otherwise they wouldn't be able to get. They tend to do loans that are in the smaller size, maybe $500,000, million, something like that, as opposed to banks like to do 25 million, 50 million, 100 million, big kinds of projects. And the little guy, in many cases your listeners, is kind of left out here. So it helps them get the money to do their projects. It helps investors get a yield 8% plus that they're not going to get from the bank these days. It's a minimum $5,000, and it's a minimum hold at time of 1 year. But the price of the shares doesn't go up and down, stays pretty much the same. And so that's helped a lot of people earn a decent yield in their money instead of just keeping in the bank, pretty much earning nothing.
Yeah, pretty much earning nothing. Okay, so let's talk about that. Because when it comes to decent and money actually earning, the silent, what I like to often call the silent killers, and one that's not actually very silent at all, between taxes and inflation, those two things are making it very, very challenging for those who are trying to hit that retirement space. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, with inflation particularly, the official inflation rate's about 2%. But I think in real life it's way more than that, depending on your situation. But you see what's happening. You. So I was like, I hope
I was wondering. I'm like, is he going to say inflation is 2%? Because we all feel way more than 2%. Because I'm like, all right, good. So this is good. Keep going. I'm sorry. I just got excited.
Gasoline prices, property taxes are going up, healthcare costs, just your health insurance premiums are going up, 40, 50%, huge increases there. And even when you get health insurance, your deductible is way higher than it used to be. Your co-payments are way higher than it used to be. So people are spending a lot more on health care. Tuitions, you see what's happening with colleges.
Yeah.
They're not going up at 2%. They're going up at 8% or some kinds 30%. I mean, just dramatic increases in educational costs all over the place. So the real life of a lot of people is their costs are going up way more than their income is. And yet they've got money sitting in a CD earning zero pretty much. So it's a way, I agree with you, it's kind of a silent thing, but you lose purchasing power by having your money sit in the bank pretty much earning nothing. And this is a way for people to kind of get ahead. And by the way, it's more than just 8% on the secured real estate fund. They have a profit sharing portion as well. So they're lending to a commercial real estate project, and when the project is sold at a profit, they share some of the profit with the fund, and then the fund shares it with the shareholders, like 80% of it goes to shareholders. So, for example, last year, the actual return of the fund was 8.7. So you get a little extra on top of the 8%, which is from interest. So that'll, if you have a decent amount of money in there, that'll help you kind of at least keep your purchasing power going.
Totally understood. Now, when it comes down to it, is there any sort, what would you say? I mean, because these things are, when it comes to handling your money, there's always, at least for me, it's felt like it's relative to the life stage and what you're doing and who you are, who you're being. And here's where I'm going with that. Mm-hmm. When someone is building their business or building a customer base or doing what we do, sometimes their best investment is reinvesting in their business. Yeah. And that becomes the challenge for an entrepreneur, is to know when to either put the money back in the business or put it somewhere else, because what else is going to create that kind of return for us? Hey guys, thanks for listening as always, and I'm glad that you continue to support with each and every download and subscription and share. One of the things that I want to ask you, though, is where are you listening to me from right now? I know some of you, maybe you're on a treadmill, maybe you're washing dishes, maybe you're walking that dog, and some of you are actually in a vehicle driving right now. One of the fun things that you can do to get some of your time back is begin to living a car-free existence. But even then, it can be a little complicated. So one of the things that I want you to do is I want you to go over to Zipcar. Go to joinzipcar.com/cashflow diary. It's a way that I am able to still go get a car just for a few hours, very, very simply, so that if I have a lot of errands to run and sheets to drop off and running to the short-term rentals, or if I just want to go for a long trip up to LA and back, etc., I can rent a car for a very, very short period of time. And the cool part is I don't even have to pay for any gas. Again, go to joinzipcar.com/cashflow diary.
It's a combination. I agree. If your business is going well, you do want to reinvest in your business, but you want to keep some liquidity aside as well. Some people are so invested in their business, they have no cash to live, basically.
Well, and sorry, here's really where I'm going with that is, we can get stuck without an exit strategy because the business becomes the retirement, for lack of a better way of putting it. But it feels like a waste of resources to put it somewhere else. So it's hard to make that decision sometimes. So I'm curious to hear.
You want to diversify, Jay. You don't want to just have all your eggs in your own business, as wonderful as it may be, as successful as it may be. You want to have some in the stock market. I mentioned this secured real estate fund as a way of getting an 8% yield. You got to have several eggs in different baskets, because if it's all in your business and something goes wrong with the business, you really get stuck. And I mean, people saw that 10 years ago when the real estate market took a major hit. People had made a huge amount of money in real estate for a long time, and they were not prepared for that kind of a quick downturn.
So, is there a particular? Is your what you would say for the entrepreneur any different than, say, someone who's working as an employee?
It is different because with an employee, you basically work there, you get your paycheck, maybe you get stock and 401k, but you can invest outside quite easily because you're already invested in your company as an employee. As an entrepreneur or owner, it's unlimited the amount of money you can invest in your own business and time, sleeping. Your entire existence can be focused on that business. With an employee at a company, you put in your hours, but then you have a life beyond that. As an entrepreneur, your life typically is your business.
It can definitely feel that way from time to time. Trying not to have it feel that way that's a completely different conversation for another day. Now, when it comes down to it, though, regardless of whether you're an entrepreneur or an employee, we still have to manage things like, we'll just take the topic of debt, for example.
Sure.
Whether it's a mortgage, whether it's a credit card, or the popular topic, I think today would be the student loan situation. Either they're managing their own, or they're managing they're looking at their children. Like I'm thinking about it. My oldest is currently in college. The only thing I told her, I told her two things: she can go to college, I'm not paying for it, and you're not getting a loan. Those are however else you want to do it, that's fine. And she's managed to do exactly that. But
that's great.
That's not a decision that everybody is making. Go ahead.
It's unusual, but great. But I mean, the reality of the situation is 70-some% of people graduate from college with some kind of a debt. And the average debt is about $39,000. That's the average. And then if you talk graduate school, law school, business school, medical school, 200, 300, 400,000, just amazing numbers that before you get your first job, basically. These are 30-year debts. It's an enormous burden on this entire generation, many of whom, because they've taken on that debt, have to go back and live at home again because they can't afford to rent an apartment, get a car, start a family, kind of get on with their lives while they've got this huge burden of debt kind of hanging over them. So it's a big problem. I mean, I'll give you one suggestion that can help people there. If they've got a whole bunch of debts and a whole bunch of different interest rates, both private and federal, they can refinance it to one loan at a much lower interest rate, typically 2 to 3%, something like that. This can help them called Credible, and the website for that is credible.com. And then do /money answers. They know it's me that way. You get $200 off your first payment that way. There's about 10 different lenders that you can choose from to combine your federal loans and your private loans and pay it off at 2% instead of 6 or 10 or much higher rates. So it doesn't make it disappear, Jay, but it helps you pay them off a little bit quicker if you're at a lower interest rate.
And that's only for student loans?
That is for student loans, correct. And there are other things we can talk about with mortgages, but on student loans, Credible is the best thing I've found out there because Credible doesn't lend itself. It's a platform that gives you about 10 different choices of other lenders who are going to give you different deals that are best for you. So that can stop a lot of people because this is the problem of this generation is being weighed down by this debt. And you can't get rid of it even in bankruptcy.
Right.
Under bankruptcy, there's two debts you can't get rid of, student loans and IRS debt. So it'll follow you to the grave. And these people are very aggressive. They'll garnish your paycheck. They'll take your IRS tax refund. They'll do all kinds of things. And more and more people are becoming delinquent and defaulting, and it really kills your credit when you get behind on a student loan.
Interesting. And you said there was something about mortgages as well?
Absolutely. So mortgage is the biggest debt. I mean, maybe beyond student loans is the biggest debt. And I hate that people have huge mortgages they're paying for a long time. And one strategy I love to tell people about, it's called mortgage equity optimization, because that literally allows people to pay off a 30-year mortgage in about 5 to 7 years on their existing level of income. You don't need more income. You just need to flow it in a more productive way. And this is true, by the way, not only of your own home, but for investment property and rental property.
You must have heard me saying in the back of my head, okay, but what if I have 30 of those mortgages? But go ahead. This is good.
Fantastic. Your tenants are paying your mortgage off in 5 years instead of 30 years, so you become free and clear on those homes 25 years faster than you ever thought possible. That to me is a good thing, right? So let me just briefly describe how that works, if that would be helpful.
Yeah.
So with mortgage optimization, you use what's called a HELOC, Home Equity Line of Credit, HELOC, which is a liquid line against your house. You can put money in, you can take it out whenever you like. It's like a second mortgage on your house, basically. Okay, and so you kind of combine the HELOC with your first mortgage and kind of pay the thing off much, much, much quicker. Let me just give it a simple example, maybe a way to kind of explain it. Say you had a house worth whatever, $300,000, okay, and say you had a $200,000 first at 4%, some kind of a good interest rate. You go out and get a HELOC for say $50,000. You would then write a check on the HELOC, $50,000 towards the first. So instead of owing $200, you now owe $150 on the first, $50 on the HELOC. The key to it is you keep your money, your income, your cash flow, which normally is sitting in the checking account, you keep it in the HELOC, and it pushes your balance down every day. HELOCs are based on what's called average daily balance. How much do I owe today? So you just borrowed $50,000 to pay the first down, and now you get a check for $1,000 for a paycheck, whatever it may be. You put it into the HELOC, you now owe $49,000 instead of $50,000, right? You just push your balance down. And then you do that during the month. You pay your bills out of the HELOC as well. So every day during the month, you're making progress and getting that balance down. And then once a month when you pay your bills, it goes back up again. But you're making that progress. So after, say, a year or so, you pay that $50,000 HELOC off to zero. And then you do it again. You write another $50,000 check on the HELOC towards the first. So now instead of 150, you're at 100. And then you pay the HELOC off. You do it twice more. So after 4 years, you paid your first off. And the 5th year, you pay off your HELOC. You are now mortgage free. It's the way you flowed your money that makes a huge difference, because with this system, you're making progress on the principal, whereas with the traditional system, you're making almost no progress with the principal for many, many, many years. All loaded on a traditional mortgage, right? So that's the way it works. And there is, by the way, a free website that people can actually kind of model it for themselves, which is truthinequity.com, and then just do /Cashflow Diary. They kind of know it's you that way. And they model it for you, and you put in what's called a personal profile. You put in your income, your expenses, your house value, your mortgage, and it says, okay, based on what you're doing today, it's going to take you 28 and a half years to pay off your mortgage. With the numbers you just gave us, it'll be 6.2 years, whatever it comes out to be. And then they show you step by step how to do it. So I've just saved your listeners 25 years off their mortgage and literally tens of thousands of dollars in needless interest.
Well, it was funny when you said, let's say you have a house for $300,000. In my head, I'm like, not around here. Being out here in California, $300,000 is the down payment usually, but it is what it is.
But around the country, California is not everywhere in the country.
No, I totally understood. I'm just, I know that there was someone listening who said that same thing, like $300,000. Where can you find a house for that?
A lot of places in the country, just not California.
Indeed. Now, what I'm hearing is that over your decades, you've just managed to, for lack of a better way of putting it, this is what's coming to my head. I was like, you've hacked money in personal finance, ways to make your dollar go further, make sure that if you do have a situation to end it faster. What on earth? How do you stay on top of all of these things? Because it can go into so many different areas.
It's my passion. This is what I've done for a long time. I see what needs people have, and then I go and find what I think is the best solution. At the beginning, we talked about the need is to earn a decent yield on your money, and the secured real estate funds is a way of getting 8% instead of 0. We talked about the student loans is a way. The need is this crushing debt of student loans at very high interest rates. I found the best solution out there, the credible people that can do that. The need is to pay off your mortgage faster than 30 years. The bank isn't going to help you on something like that. So the solution is this truthinequity.com /Cashflow Diary, and they can help you literally save tens of thousands of dollars. So I'm always looking at what the need is first, and then I go out and try to find what I find to be the best solution.
And that's ultimately what I love about capitalism, America, where we live. Who is that we have the ability to, you can identify any need, and then because you've identified it, now you can go make a solution and it's now your business. It becomes yours. It's your thing, and that you get to go out there and help people with it. For those that have listened this long, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The more pressing the need, the bigger the market is, right? I mean, people paying their mortgages off, there's millions of people that have to pay their mortgages off faster, right? There's millions of people who have money sitting in the bank earning zero. And the traditional institutions are not going to help you, right? You're not going to go to the bank and say, I can't stand earning 0% of my money. What do you suggest? Got a 5-year CD at 0.7% or something. Well, no, I want 8%. They're just not going to be able to help you, right? The bank is not going to help you pay your mortgage off faster because they're real happy with the current situation where you pay them for 30 years, all the interest upfront loaded. And even better, if you refinance, you start a new 30-year clock all over again. So the bank's happy about the current situation. So the solutions I try to offer are the things that you're not going to hear about from traditional kind of financial institutions.
Yeah, totally understood. For those that have listened this far and want to find out more about what you're up to and to track you down, what's going to be the best way for them to catch up with you?
So moneyanswers.com is my website, and I'd love to help people there. And I've actually got a special landing page we've created specifically for your folks, which is go.moneyanswers.com/cashflow diary. And there's some things following up on what we've talked about here. I've got a newsletter. I do take emails, and I love to help your folks with all their financial issues at moneyanswers.com.
Excellent. I appreciate that. Now, as we wind down, I've got a question for you because I'm curious to hear what your answer is going to be. I think it's going to be different than what I've heard the hundreds of times from the other guests so far. So I think it's going to be good. Let's pretend for a moment that there's a listener going right now. I mean, they've listened and they're like, you know what? I'm going to go do that entrepreneur thing. I can tackle my problem. This is going to happen for me. But like I know, when we reach what I like to call the precipice of decision, there's often a companion with us, and that companion comes in the form of a voice, and it says things like, you're not going to get out of debt. You're not going to start a business. You're not going to be able, no one's going to buy anything from me. What? You're going to do what? No, it's just not going to work. And it reminds us of, you remember what happened last time you tried that idea? And for some reason, some of us are actually married to that voice. So
yeah.
My question to you is as follows. Let's pretend for a moment that this time it's going to be different. They're going to follow through. They're going to make it happen. And they're going to do so by doing whatever you suggest. And they're going to do so in the next 24 to 48 hours. What would you suggest that they do?
The most important thing is to know that there's demand there for what you're offering. Okay? Because if there's demand there and you've got some kind of a special edge, you can make it happen, as I have, as you have. The demand cannot be theoretical, okay? People have to value in what you're offering and willing to take it from you. And frankly, if you've got credibility or street cred in a particular area, that's going to help. I mean, I got street cred because I was at Money Magazine for 18 years and I've done 13 books and all the things we've talked about. It's like, yeah, that's a guy who knows what he's talking about. I'm willing to listen to him and take advice from him. Whatever your area is, if it's in real estate's not about real estate, it's about people, really, and building it. And trust with suppliers and with buyers and with sellers. It's all a people business when you get down to it. So you got to have, is your personality going to attract people? And are they going to believe you and listen to you and want to buy what you have? If you have that, I think you've got the makings of an entrepreneur. A lot of people do not have the makings for an entrepreneur. They're kind of trained to be employees and do what somebody tells them to do and be a good boy, basically. That's a very different mindset than being an entrepreneur, where you don't have anybody to tell you what to do. You have to figure it out on your own. And then hire employees and make other things happen under you. It's a very different mindset than being an employee.
Indeed, 100%. I definitely appreciate the fact that you approach what you do with not only with passion, but also with clarity. You've been one of those few individuals who got a clear understanding of what they wanted to do very, very early. which was awesome. And I thank you for taking the time to share your knowledge, your wisdom, as well as your insight here with us today at the Cashflow Diary. Really appreciate it, Jay. Thanks so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? That means go.moneyanswers.com/cashflow diary. It means you also received a significant number of resources in this particular episode to be able to understand what it is that you could do next to solve your own challenge. If you are experiencing a money challenge, well, go to moneyanswers.com. Why? Because that's where the answers are. You have a challenge. You've identified the challenge. You are feeling the challenge. Go do something about it. Here's the thing. All problems accrue interest and grow larger over time. So that means your solution is overdue. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun talking to you today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.